Hey up everyone, in today's video we're going to be talking about what's going on in the welterweight division. So if in case you missed it, Belal Muhammad is now the welterweight champion and I want to cry. It's no secret that I am a Belal hater. I don't like Belal in the slightest. I find him very boring. I think his personality is very shit and dry and stale and I'm just not a fan of him. But fair play to him. I've always said on this channel, whenever I've spoke about Belal, I think he's very underrated. And he showed the world how good he actually is against Leon Edwards. And fair play to him. I predicted that Leon would win. But unfortunately for me, as a big Leon fan, as you can tell, that wasn't the case and he wasn't able to get the victory. And now that Belal has won and proven himself against the odds, I do wonder what's going to happen with the welterweight division. And I'm going to be starting off by talking about the former champion, Leon Edwards. What is he going to do next? Now I feel like the more realistic route for him is to try go for that welterweight title again. You know, get a few victories. I don't know who against the likes of because there's so many names up in that top 5 right now. It's kind of like a jumbo at the moment. So I don't know. But I feel like that is the best bet for him. The other bet is that he goes up to middleweight division. He has teased this a few times, but I was never really fond of that idea. I don't think his size would translate that well for the middleweight division, an extra £15. And I just don't think he would have much success there. I think the perfect size for him is the welterweight division. But yeah, who would he fight in the welterweight division next? Maybe Ian Gary, but there is talks of Ian Gary versus Shavkat. Maybe JDM, again, there's talks about him versus Shavkat. I can't really think of, maybe Gilbert Burns, I don't really know. There's a few names in that welterweight division who he could fight next, to be honest with you. But I'm not sure what Leon wants to do next. I feel like he's going to be at the drawing board for a while. But I want him to stay quite active. I feel like that's always been a bit of a problem for Leon. He's never really been able to remain active. So I'd like to see him bounce back, probably at the end of the year, if I'm being quite honest for you. Maybe in a 3-round fight. I can't see him being in like a fight night main event. He could potentially, but I feel like they'll put him on a pay-per-view. Now that he's a former champion, now that he's an established name in the UK scene. You know, a lot of people know who Leon Edwards is now. So I think he'll be on a 3-round co-main event for a pay-per-view, something along those lines. I don't know who against, but I think his best bet is to stay in the welterweight division. And then we've got to talk about my best mate, Belal Muhammad. Who should he attempt to make his first title defense against? I think it's got to be Shavkat. Now, again, I think there's talks of Ian Gary and Shavkat or Jack Dalla Maddalena against Shavkat. I think should scrap that and just give it Shavkat and Belal. You know, I've heard some people say Kamaru Usman, and I think Usman would actually beat Belal. However, Usman's I think he's lost his last 3 fights. Two against Leon Edwards and 1 against Hamza, although let's be honest, he probably should have won against Hamza. But regardless, I just don't think you can't be 0-3 in your last 3 and get a title shot off that. It makes no sense. So I think if Usman's going to get the title, he has to get at least 1 win. I think him being the second greatest welterweight of all time, you know, he should be able to, cut some slack, get a bit of leeway with just getting 1 win and getting straight into the title pitch compared to other fighters. But yeah, I find that quite interesting, Kamaru Usman against Belal. I would find that really interesting. I do think Usman, although he's not in his prime anymore, I do think he'll beat Belal. But Shavkat Belal, I think, is the fight to make. I think most people are expecting that. I don't want to see an immediate rematch for Leon, and I'm a big Leon fan, but just after that performance, I just don't see how it's warranted. I don't think it's fair to warrant that. Maybe if it was a close fight, a more competitive fight, and Leon showed a bit more grit to actually want to win, then fair enough, but that just wasn't the case. And then we talk about the rest of the contenders in the welterweight division. I'm not going to class Shavkat in this, because like I said, I believe he should be fighting Belal next. I don't think he should have to fight Maddalena or Ian Gary, and the winners of those fights gets the title shot. I think Shavkat should just get it, and then you can create fights like Maddalena versus Leon Edwards, or Maddalena versus Kamaru Usman, or even Ian Gary, and vice versa for Ian Gary against Leon Edwards or Usman. You know, even Colby's still there for the Ian Gary fight if you're struggling, you know, or if UFC don't believe in Ian Gary yet, whatever the reason may be. I actually wouldn't mind Ian Gary fighting Colby. You know, I feel like there's such a good build-up right there. If Colby's able to win, that does put him in the title picture. although I think he's a bit of a fraud. But regardless of that, if Colby was able to win, then yeah, that puts him straight back into the title picture. It'll be a very hyped up fight as well. You've also got Gilbert Burns fighting Sean Brady soon. Whoever wins that, they get themselves in the title picture and could fight someone like Leon Edwards, Kamaru Usman, something like that. But I can't wait to see how this plays out. I feel like this is the best the welterweight division's been in for a while now, if I'm being completely honest. And just before I stop waffling and end the video, I just want to talk about how I've seen a lot of people mention, oh, it was at 5 o'clock in the morning, that's why Leon was so shit. Can we just stop making excuses, please? Like, don't get me wrong, I know it's going to have an effect on fighters. The same way it's going to have an effect on Belal. The same way it's going to have an effect on Tamar Aspinall and Curtis Blades and Bobby Green and Paddy Pimblett. It has an effect on all those fighters who really were on the main card. The prelims not so much, I would say, but still to a certain extent. But when we got like later on in the morning, then that's when it started to take more of a toll. But we can't use it just to, use it an excuse for Leon. But why don't we use that same excuse for Bobby Green? You know what I mean? Like, we should stop using this excuse. It sucked. The UFC should never do it again. I was actually in attendance for this event, my first ever UFC event. I certainly felt tired from watching, but I'm not a fucking athlete with all the adrenaline pumping and, and all that. So I just don't think we should use this excuse to try and warrant why Leon didn't perform that well. That's me finished with chatting bollocks. Now, let me know in the comments what you thought of the card, what you thought of the performance from Leon, from Belal. Let me know in the comments. Thank you for watching the video. Go away.